Hello, it's Kathy with Waste.Not.Upcycled. I'm a full-time teacher and a part-time reseller and creator. Today, as you follow along, I'm going to make a do-it-yourself video using the extra rolling pins as well as some other items, decoupage paper that's left over, and some paint. Definitely follow along to see the fun projects that are created. I have quite the collection of rolling pins. I have a ton, so I pulled a couple out and I decided I'm going to make them fall themed. So I'm using actually my recycled paper left over from Sonnet's Maker Box as well as some rice paper. And I like to take my decoupage glue and I like to thin it down with water. So here I am sorting out everything. I'm just cutting every single scrap. Nothing's going into the garbage. So for my first rolling pin, I decided to have kind of like an orange fall pumpkin-y theme. So I'm organizing all of my different papers that kind of match that theme. I was so happy to see that this completely perfectly fit around the rolling pin because I was cutting random pieces at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and take my glue and I'm just going to pick that starting point. And I usually have that starting point so that I could kind of smooth everything out. Now, this rolling pin and most of my work I consider perfectly imperfect. So I'm not completely worried if there's any bumps or anything in there in this because I'm actually going to go over later and paint over it. I also like to make sure that on the edge of it, I leave a little bit over and I can go back and I will sand it later so that it perfectly lines up. So I'm going to go ahead, smoothing it out as I go along, and I'm glad it overlaps. Now, I like to go ahead and smooth it out with my fingers. I have no problem with, getting my hands dirty. A lot of creators can also use like a plastic bag or something of that sort, so when they smooth it over, it smooths nicely. And again, I'm just going to overlap, glue it on piece by piece. I like to go back over it, and because it has that water mixed in with it, it kind of helps that paper to relax a little bit and smooth out more easily. So after I created kind of like a Mod Podge background, I'm going to go in and I'm going to separately glue in these decoupage pieces that they're going to kind of be the highlight of this rolling pin. So I have my butterfly, I'm gonna go in and do the cute little pumpkins. And I'm just kind of spreading them out. Now to make it easier, I just glue the back of these, put it on, and then once again, I go over all of this with the decoupage. The brand that I have is not my usual brand, but this has like a very light gloss to it. So it will dry completely clear, but it's secured on. Now, I like to batch my crafts, so I'm also, while that's drying, I'm going on to my next one, and for this one, it's a fun one that I had seen done before. Now, I had the choice. I have a ton of old paintbrushes, and I can either just toss them and get rid of them, but I decided I'm gonna decoupage these different paintbrushes, and I'm gonna keep them in my sheet shed. I thought that they would look really cute all bundled together. And this is a great one that I can use all those like tiny little extra scraps. So not only am I upcycling the brush, but I'm saving those papers. And so this is gonna have kind of a blue theme, bluish, earthy kind of theme to it. So I'm just taking all those little scraps, gluing it. And again, because there's edges all over, I'm using my fingers to smooth everything out, go back over a couple times with it. And I'm gonna do it layered on both sides. I was going to do the metal, but I really liked how like crusty and old it looked. So I'm gonna leave that metal. I have just one cute little butterfly left over. And I decided I'm gonna go ahead and cut that out and feature it on there. Now, just like I said earlier, I'm gonna be adding paint. So it's kind of like a couple different mediums going on with all of these crafts. So I'm gonna be coming back later and I'm gonna be layering on paint to all of these different crafts. But of course they have to dry. So I'm gonna set that aside and I'm on to my third project. For this rolling pin, I decided to kind of have that vintagey look. So I have a lot of kind of stamped look, wording, lettering, and so on. And again, I'm gonna do the same exact thing. I'm completely putting like a base layer of different different decoupages together, wiping it down. And I'm okay if there's gaps in between these because like I said earlier, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna paint it. So it's gonna be layered no matter what. You're not gonna see those gaps. And again, I'm perfectly imperfect with how I'm decoupaging these. I'm leaving a layer around the edge, as you can see a gap, so it's overlapping. So I will, when it dries, I'll go back and I'll take sandpaper and finally sand around the edges so that it lines up perfectly. So for this one, I am featuring the adorable birds. I have a couple of them by Upcycled paper. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those on, layered up a little bit more. And while this project's drying, I'm about to move on to my last project. So for the next project, this is just a wooden tag, super adorable for gifts or to add to projects. And this one was perfect just to go ahead and add the leftover tiny little scraps, like little things. I actually am using a napkin that was left over, and I'm just gonna layer it all over. I mean, it looks like a hot mess, but it actually ends up being super cute. So I'm gonna layer this all up on both sides. So after everything was finally dried, I pulled together all kinds of different paints that I've had that are left over and kind of sitting around. And I knew already that I wanted to go for that fall theme. So what I'm doing here is I'm gonna go color by color, and I already know that this fall one is gonna have all the different colors in it. So I start with one color and randomly go around and just kind of smooth it in. Now, my goal is that it's light enough that you can kind of see the decoupage behind it as well. And I'm just, like I said, completely random. The only thing I'm being really careful about is those decoupage pieces that I want to feature or what I want to pop. I'm really kind of going around them, maybe a light layer. But one of the things I'm really going for is it's not thick, it's light, and then I'm layering up my paint as well. So you'll notice as I go in with each color, I layer them over each other. They're light, they're faded. There's no pattern to them whatsoever. I want them to look random and kind of all mesh together. So for this last project, I am going to go ahead and sand it down. Just like I said, I cut the edges and then sand it. This is exactly what I did when I was doing the rolling pins as well. And I'm just gonna pull in like the blues, and again, very random spots. This one, you'll notice there's kind of a patch as well, because same thing, I was gonna put a transfer on it, and it did not work out. So I pulled it off, and I'm just gonna stick with these papers and kind of have that blue and green theme. Swapping out paintbrushes. Popping out the decoupage, and then I'll actually be adding twine into that hole. And yes, I'm actually gonna paint the paintbrush. I think that this will be really, really cute. So I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm just gonna randomly add some blues and greens to it and see how this looks. And like I said earlier, I'm gonna do this with my old paintbrushes and just get a collection going. I think it would be really cute for vignettes, as well as kind of a display in the area where I craft. And I love how it's just old and chippy looking as well. So it's just kind of blending the new with the old is one of my favorite things to do. And while I was finishing that up, everything else was dry, and it was time to add the finishing touches to the brush. Like I said, I'm doing my first one in orange, just so it pops. It's turned out so cute. I love all the decoupage. And then the second one, I decided to do kind of a blue. So I'm gonna pull the blues together in the second one. I'm pretty happy how this one turned out as well. So I'm definitely gonna coat everything with Big Top to seal it. And leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think, what your favorite project was, if you're inspired to paint or decoupage something different. I'd love to hear about it. Thanks for watching.